everyone, and welcome to Simply Made Homestead. Well, the goats have been milked, the animals have been fed, and we're hungry. And I thought, you know, what a good day to have some tomato gravy over biscuits, maybe some scrambled eggs on the side. So I thought, you know what, I'm gonna take you guys with me and we can make breakfast together. Now typically I make tomato gravy over biscuits with a side of pork chops or some steamed cabbage or any other kind of vegetable that you like, and that sort of thing. And then in the morning we usually have sausage gravy. And I thought, you know what, why not tomato gravy over biscuits for breakfast? Sounds good to me. So let's get started. Now guys, before we get started, if you enjoy videos like this, if you can just pause real quick, give a big old thumbs up, I really would appreciate it. It really helps our channel. So now I'm going to turn the camera down so you can see what I'm doing, and you won't see my face, but I'm gonna be talking. All right, now first we need to get our oven set to 425. And I've got my cast iron skillet here because I love to bake biscuits in cast iron skillets. You don't have to bake in cast iron. All right, to start with, we need 2 cups of all-purpose flour. I know my arms are in the way, guys, but I'll get out of the way in just a sec. Now it is all-purpose. You can use self-rising if that's all you have. And if you have self-rising, you just don't need to add the baking powder or the baking soda. So since we are using all-purpose, we are going to add 2 tablespoons of baking powder, a 1/4 teaspoon of baking soda, 1 teaspoon salt. I like kosher salt. But you use whatever salt that you like. All right, y'all, I apologize. My battery died. It's my bad for not putting a new one in before I started this. Big fat lesson learned. But where we left off, I put the salt in, and then I like to use a whisk just to mix all my dry ingredients together, and it kind of fluffs up the flour. After you mix all the dry ingredients together, take a whole stick of cold butter right out of the fridge, and I grated it into the flour. Once that's complete, I take a fork and I coat all of my butter. You don't want your hands in there because your hands are hot. They're much hotter. We want to keep this nice and cold to make that butter really hit that dough, and it's just, oh goodness, yummy, yummy goodness. So next we're going to take our buttermilk. Now I prefer buttermilk anytime I have buttermilk. We use 1 1/4 cup if you have buttermilk. If you have whole milk, I do highly recommend using whole milk if you don't have buttermilk. And you can make your own buttermilk by adding a tablespoon of vinegar to whole milk and then just stir it up and let it sit for, I don't know, 5, 10, 15 minutes. And that is a really good substitute. But if all you have is whole milk, use that, or whatever kind of milk that you need to use. Some people just really can't handle all the fats in the whole milk. But if you want super yummy, buttermilk first, whole milk second, and then on from there. Now you see here, I don't do a hard mix. Oh my goodness, hush. I don't do a hard mix on my dough, because then you make the bread tough. Let me let this dog out. I swear y'all know one thing. I get one obstacle in front of me after other when it comes to trying to put out videos. So no, for me to continue to do this, it is sheer determination. All right, so now it's time to roll out our biscuits, or cut our biscuits. So I like to put a good amount because it's a nice moist dough. So give a good sprinkling down on your counter, and then just dump your dough out just like that. And then we are going to make some nice big biscuits today. Now I just use a mason jar to cut my biscuits. Now I do kind of, you can see here, just kind of get everything all joined together. and get it the thickness that I want my biscuits to start. Now they're gonna rise up nice and big and beautiful. Let's put some more flour down here. Okay, there we go. All right, now I've got my frying pan right here. I haven't greased it because I make sure I oil my pans after I clean them. And since this is for my husband, I'm making a nice big biscuit with a wide mouth. Now lots of times, like when the grandkids are here, I'll use like the small little half-pint jelly jars and just the little biscuits, and because they're just, you know, just right for them. You see now why I flour it, because the dough is moist and it helps be able to get the biscuit out of the jar. Alright, so once you get all the ones cut out of there that you can get cut out, you know, sometimes when we make breads and things, we just kind of work it to, well, not breads. Breads you really have to work a lot. You know, you have to knead it and all. But like with biscuits or pastry, we just tend to overwork it. With this big one, I'm running out of, I keep having to reshape my dough. But that's okay. We can do that. I try not to keep my hands in it too much because I don't want to warm up that butter. I want it to hit that hot frying pan, and oh, yummy. You know what? I think I'm going to leave that one just like that. That looks pretty darn good, doesn't it? I think so too. So we're going to put that one right there. Look at there, y'all. Pretty, pretty. Right now into the oven, and for about 20 minutes. And that really depends on your oven and how it cooks. These dough scrapers, they work great for trying to get in your countertop, all the flour off your countertop. All right, now to get started with our tomato gravy, I'm just going to turn my stove. Now my stovetop, it gets really hot, so I only turn it to about medium, and I save my bacon grease. This isn't rendered lard. This is like the grease. When you fry your bacon, save that grease. Put it in a jar, stick it in the fridge. It is excellent for seasoning beans and for making gravies, and just a really good little additive to a lot of things. Collards, all kind of greens. It's just yummy, yummy, yummy. So I have put a couple of tablespoons in there. We're going to kind of see how much that gives me. Some things I do, y'all, it's all by an exact recipe, especially when I'm baking. But when I'm doing things like this, lots of times it's just kind of see how it looks. So I will talk you through it and tell you why and how and what we're looking for. Let me just bring you on in there so you can see exactly what is going on. See, it looks like 2 tablespoons is going to be a good amount. And it was 2 these kind of tablespoons, y'all. Not a measuring spoon. That's like a soup spoon right there. So, and they were, one of them was kind of heaping. So like I said, you just want a thin layer of grease on the bottom of the pan. And if you don't get enough, you can add more in this process right here, okay? I've got a 1/4 cup of flour. Let me get that. The rest of that down. There we go. All right, so now we want to mix that around. And get it all incorporated together. Now I like mine a little bit thinner than that. So I'm going to add just a wee bit more. See that? I'm going to show you what I'm looking for. I don't want it all clumped up really big like that. See how it's kind of spread out a little bit now? Now if you added too much grease, you can just add a little bit more flour. And all that does is later on you would add more water or more tomatoes. It just increases the size of your batch. It makes a larger amount of gravy. But you see how it's nice and thick. And I like getting to that thicker place first and then coming here, then adding a little bit of grease at a time so that I don't have too much. And you know exactly where you are and what's going on in your pan. All right, now we're gonna just kind of keep stirring this because you don't want it to sit because it'll get really brown on the bottom, and we want all of it to get a nice golden brown, a little bit past the golden, kind of a dark. You'll see in just a minute, because once we add our liquids, it's going to create a lighter gravy. Now I have tomatoes from my garden from last fall, so that's what we're going to use today. I have not had tomatoes from my garden in a very long time. I have used canned tomatoes for years now. So my husband's retired Air Force, so having a garden, it was hard to do. We were moving around a lot and traveled in an RV a bit. You see how it's getting darker. But you can use, now I'm turning it down because it's starting to smoke and it's getting really super hot. So I'm really turning it down because I don't want my gravy, my roux here, to get away from me. Because if you burn it, it's going to taste nasty. And if you do, don't worry about it. Throw it out and just start again. Just keep moving it around. That's one thing about the cast iron. It really distributes the heat. When it gets hot, and it really distributes the heat. Okay. Now I'm just going to pour this in here. Now even if you use like the 15-ounce jar of tomatoes, like diced tomatoes, you can use whole tomatoes and just squish them up to get big chunks. It kind of test it. Don't put the whole can in there, because I've done that and made a small batch of gravy and then just kind of had a little bit too much tomatoes. So just eyeball it, do a little bit at a time. And now we need to add some water. You see how thick it is. There was some juice in the tomatoes, which just creates, even more flavor. That tomatoey flavor to the gravy. But now we're going to add some water. And you see the chunks. You can get a whisk if you want at this point. But I like to just use the spoon, because once it all heats up and you start stirring, it really smooths out. And a few lumps just means you got homemade gravy. It did not come from a package. And you see how it's thickening right up? See? It was super runny in the beginning. And I've got it way low here. Almost on this stove, I can turn it all the way down to low. Because you still want it to bubble and to simmer. But you just want it to cook and keep cooking, simmering and bringing down, getting that water to evaporate out of there and just really concentrating the flavors in the gravy. See, that's super, super thick. I've got 10 minutes left on my biscuits, and they can even sit out a few minutes because they're going to be super hot, and we're going to put really hot gravy over the top. See, I need to turn it back up just a tickle because it got slowed down, so just play with your dials, y'all. now I'm gonna put a little bit more water in there because I want to thin it out, and then turn the heat up just a tickle and let it really kind of cook a little bit more and really get all married together, all those flavors. You see, salt and pepper. I just have a big pinch of salt, sprinkle it around there. I love a peppered gravy, and my husband adores anything spicy. So, good bit of pepper, and then just mix it all around. Now, the only way you're going to know if that salt and pepper is to your taste or to your liking is to taste it. So just let it cook a little bit, and then come back, and you can check on it. Get you a little spoon. Make sure you let it cool before you put your lips around it, because it's going to light you up if you don't. And then we're just going to let it cook. Look at those yummy garden fresh tomatoes. Oh goodness. That's good stuff. And I didn't turn my stove up much, but there, you see how fast it gets to clicking there? I'm going to add a few more tomatoes in mine. Not so much water, because we added the water already. And plus, when you add stuff to your gravy, it's going to, you know, cool it off, the tomatoes, the water, so it has to come back up to heat. And then sometimes it may be cooking a little bit too fast, so you have to turn it down. You just have to just keep playing with that dial. All right, y'all, we're going to dig in. Have a wonderful day, and until next time.
You're like the waitress. I'm talking with my mouth full.
Oh, well, until next time, take care.
And God bless.
And God bless.